Scott here, and you are in a best of special edition of the Huddle. We are going to take you back in the day, and we've got two segments for you. The first, and both of them are all Huddle teams that we have previously done. The first segment is a all Huddle team of the NBA's most ugly players, and in the second installment, you're going to hear our list of the best fictional basketball players from movies and TV shows. So we'll take you on a trip down memory lane and hope you enjoy.
Now, getting to what was probably my most anticipated portion of this podcast, that being the first segment of the All Huddle team. Now, I'm hoping this is going to be an ongoing segment throughout the year, but today's All Huddle team is going to focus on the ugliest players to have ever played in the NBA, and we're going to go by position. Did you think about this at all?
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
I absolutely agree. A lot to cover, so let's jump in. Point guard is our first and natural position. Do you want to give us our first nominee?
I'm going to throw out a just absolute lock on this list. We can discuss it, but we all know this guy's a lock. Sam Cassell.
There's no question. His resemblance to E.T. is absolutely uncanny. If Sam Cassell wrapped his face in a towel, I'd be reasonably certain that he could make a bike fly. You're going to see there are a number of filthy, ugly human beings who occupy this list, but Sam Cassell might be the most valuable.
Do you have another point guard you put on there?
Only kind of as an aside. He pales in comparison to Sam Cassell's filthy face. But Steve Nash, not necessarily traditionally, but his current haircut makes him look a lot like Hitler. So I do think that he should be involved.
Yeah, what is going on with that?
I can only imagine that he went into the barber shop that LeBron goes into during that Sam Cassell commercial and immediately told the barber, I'm looking for a haircut that looks like I hate Jews. What do you have in mind? And the barber was nice enough to indulge him.
Yeah, even without the haircut, I still had Steve Nash on the list even before. Just a weird-looking guy.
Somewhere the Ball Don't Lie podcast is getting really angry that we're talking about the one relevant fucking Canadian basketball player. Okay, that one's a lock and a fairly easy one. Let's go to a little bit more difficult position. Shooting guard.
Tough position.
Very tough. Now, I'm going to throw out a name real quickly, and it might not be a popular one given that this is a Warriors podcast. Klay Thompson. Now,
really?
I'm not going to say that he is the ugliest person on earth, but he does bear a very striking resemblance to the aliens from Prometheus. Now, I know a lot of people haven't seen that movie. Trust me on this, or do a Google search. It's almost identical.
I think that's just unfair, man. Klay Thompson is should not be on this list. I'm going to throw out Delonte West.
I am really too afraid of Delonte West to talk any shit about him at all. I feel that if I said anything right now, he'd first, he'd stop fucking LeBron's mom, then jump on a 3-wheeled motorcycle and come and beat the shit out of two of us. So I'm going to leave this just to you. Instead, I'm going to answer you with one third name, and then let's make our call.
Actually, let me just throw out on Delonte West because this guy just keeps getting uglier. If you look back at his St. Joe's days and then trace his career, he continues to get ugly. It's remarkable.
The name I wanted to throw out was Jeff Hornacek. Now, it's been a little while. We've forgotten about him, but this man had a forehead that could not only be described as giant and awkward, but incredibly pale. Just incredibly pale. And just in case we didn't notice it, he'd draw all fans' attention to it by petting it gingerly at the free throw line. Do you remember that?
Yeah, this guy loved the comb over, man.
Oh, he was a big fan.
Loved it, and he had these bug eyes also that were just kind of a little crazy and creepy, kind of Steve Buscemi looking.
Very Buscemi. That's a very good call. With these threes, who's your nominee?
I'm going to go Delonte West because the guy just, when he had a shaved head, it was just, oh.
I'm going Hornacek. I'm gonna differ from you here with due respect to your decision, but again, awkward silence because I'm too afraid of Delonte to say anything. Let's move into small forward, one that's a little bit more easy to pick. Now, I'll throw out my first nomination here. Great player, one of the NBA's all 50 greatest of all time, Senor Scottie Pippen. Now, when you look at this guy, I've never seen anyone with a sharper face. I feel like if he face butted a diamond, he could split it in half with his nose. Have you ever thought that?
I did think that, and Scottie Pippen was on my list. I mean, this guy's the only person who has 6 championships and still needs a dating service.
There is no question. He's probably broken at least 4 of the diamonds when he looked directly at them and kissed them. In fact, probably broken them with his nose, as I just mentioned. Anybody else worth throwing out here?
I think Charlie Villanueva, if you could put him at the small forward position.
Now, am I allowed to say something like he doesn't have eyebrows without going into the whole cancer controversy that Kevin Garnett started?
Keep it clean here.
Okay,
but
well, then I won't throw that out. But if I could throw that out, I would at least point our listeners' attention to the fact that he does not have any hair on his eyebrows at all. And I'd imagine that makes it really hard to show facial expressions.
Oh, it's creepy. That's why he's on the list. I mean, it's just, the guy's ugly.
One more guy, and I won't make fun of him because we're running out of time on the small forward position, Hedo Turkoglu. Not only is his name terrible, but his face is equally as bad. My nominee here, Scottie Sharpface Pippen.
I agree. I think he's the reason why Michael Jordan retired the first time.
Slam dunk. Okay, we are getting into our heavy hitters when we start talking about power forwards.
Big category.
My God, there are some really just genetic freaks here. And my first guy, Popeye Jones. I don't know how much you remember about the movie Goonies, but this guy looks a lot like Sloth. In fact, every time I see him, I feel like he's going to look into the fucking camera and say, Baby Ruth?
This guy was on my list. There's no picture for him on Wikipedia, I think, because it's just, he's that ugly. I never thought there'd be somebody whose ears would trump those of Reggie Miller, but this is the guy who's done it. And a name like Popeye Jones.
Oh, terrible. And he's got that wandering eye that would always, it would kind of go off to the right when he was shooting free throws. I mean, it makes sense to me that he was a poor career free throw shooter because he couldn't see the fucking rim. It's not his goddamn fault. Take one eye away from Jeff Hornacek, and he probably wouldn't hit free throws either. The other guy we got to mention, and I'm not sure if he's a center or not. I'm going to call him a power forward, Pau Gasol.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Big Bird.
Or Beekert from the Muppets. It looks like his face has been slowly melting from the early 90s and has almost reached that critical point.
He has this look of constipation and sadness on his face at the same time. It's just...
Well, I think the sadness is from Kobe Bryant secretly stabbing him in the back over and over and over again. But you try living a life with a melting face and see how happy you are.
He's a pretty sulky guy as well, like Cousins, which adds to his ugliness.
That's true. Any other nominees for our power forward position?
I put Carlos Boozer on here.
Wow. Booze. Why?
Yeah, it's really hard to describe his appearance to people, kind of like explaining color to a blind person. The description never does it justice. But his hair, lack of hair, he's just not a good-looking guy.
Do you have that whole color for a blind person analogy already figured out? I mean, that seems like something you worked on before we got to the podcast.
I've been pretty much just waiting to drop that.
That's great. I might use it before we're out of here. I mean, I'm going to assimilate that as well. Carlos Boozer, contract's ugly. I'll give you that. I mean, he is not an attractive man, but amongst these other guys, Popeye Jones, Pau Gasol, I don't think that he necessarily belongs. I'll give you the nomination. I'm sticking with Popeye. Who's your vote?
Yeah, Popeye is I think if we were just to go all-time ugly, Popeye and Sam Cassell are like absolute locks, you know?
Do you have any idea what it is to say? I mean, like how ugly someone would have to be for us to look at Pau Gasol and say, no, you are not the ugliest person here, sir. There's somebody else out there. But we've got the most difficult position ahead of us now, center. If there is a group of people on earth who are more ugly than NBA centers, I haven't encountered them.
No, this category by far had the most names on it.
Just an avalanche. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right in. My first guy, and maybe my nomination, old school movie star George Mirasan.
See, I can't believe you're going to do my guy dirty like this, man. George Mirasan is the man. I love that guy. I don't know. Come on.
Have you ever seen him? I mean, it is.
I saw him get the most improved player in the 95-96 season. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I don't give a fuck about how good of a player he is. What I'm saying is that this guy, I mean, I almost am at a loss for words when trying to describe this gentleman's face. It looks like somebody accidentally sprayed him with acid and then slowly tried to reconfigure his eyes and his mouth into a simile of what he used to look like.
No, I think you're right. He's on the list. I still love the guy, but I think his ugliness starts with his name, George with 2 H's in it. I mean, right there off the bat, that's just ugly.
Almost as ridiculous as Mark with a C. Now, how do you think Billy Crystal felt when he realized his career dropped to the fucking point when he was not only starring in a movie with an NBA star, but with a guy who was maybe the ugliest human being of all time.
Oh, that must have been a real sad moment for Billy Crystal.
Who's your next nomination?
Sheldon Williams.
Wow.
This guy looks like an aborted baby.
Do you remember the Simpsons episode where Montgomery Burns fielded a softball team and they weren't quite good enough, so he gave them all steroids? And Ken Griffey Jr. ended up drinking it to an excess, and his head ballooned.
Comes out in the wheelchair.
Yeah, and he's got that gigantic forehead. I am reasonably certain that they asked Sheldon Williams to sit in, and that they just stenciled his face and used it as the go-to mold for Ken Griffey Jr. in that cartoon.
How did he's married to Candace Parker, a women's basketball player, who's very attractive. How he landed her, I have no idea.
Maybe she was a big Simpsons fan.
That's definitely maybe one of the only going theories that could explain this. And I'd like to also say that putting Sheldon Williams on the list, I think, speaks to the fact that Duke has had a number of ugly players.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, especially if you're including Carlos Boozer. All right, I'm going to answer your Sheldon Williams with my own Chris Kaman, another guy who, I mean, really, he's got to be a favorite in this list. He's got
a great call.
Wispy axe murderer hair. He's got a blank stare that could scare a rock. And he's got strangely hairy shoulders, which is something that you don't see too frequently.
Where would this guy be without basketball?
I would say jail. I feel like if I woke up and he was somehow in my room staring at me, I would die immediately from fright.
I don't know if you've seen the Chris Kaman video game version from NBA 2K8. It's one of the scariest, most ugly recreations of a human being.
I definitely believe that. I think that if Jason took off his mask, he'd look a lot like Chris Kaman. And for those who are YouTubers, get out there and YouTube Chris Kaman shooting cars. Apparently this guy's got enough money where he brings over a ton of friends. They go back and shoot his shooting cars. He's got like 8 or 9 buckets where they just fucking unload shotgun blasts in it. He probably brings these people around because they're the only guys who can make him seem less like white trash. But we've spent enough time on Chris Axe Murderer Kaman. Who's your next guy?
I'm going to throw out Joakim Noah. How was this guy the result of crossing a tennis star with a Swedish model? Those are his two parents, and you result in Joakim Noah.
I mean, one of them must have fucked an animal at some point. I mean, there must have been some kind of genetic mutation that at least accounted for his hair. Now, I'm going to disagree with you. Joakim Noah, if he was a power forward, I mean, probably my nomination, but he doesn't belong amongst the ranks of George Murison, Chris Kaman. There's other people out here, man. No, he's ugly, but he's not, for example, Greg Oden ugly, who's the next guy I wanted to bring up. At the age of 21, Greg Oden looked like Robert Parrish's father. I mean, either he went through a time machine that somehow advanced his age as he went through it, or he is just remarkably hideous.
He's definitely on the list. I agree. How did somebody who's that young look so old? It doesn't make sense.
It's amazing. Who's your next guy?
I'll go with old school Mark Eaton.
Oh,
Caveman Eaton.
I doubt that many of our listeners remember what old Mark looks like, but this one I can't give you shit on. I mean, prototypical canned white terrible player, and you add on top of that 0 looks. He belongs on the list.
Utah Jazz fielding quite a team here.
They are amazing.
Do you have more?
Oh, of course I do. Mutombo. The fact that we've gotten this deep into the game is absolutely ridiculous. One of my favorite stories when I used to listen to Jim Rome is that when Mutombo was playing at Georgetown, he went into a bar, opened up his arms. The bar apparently was filled with people and screamed out, "Who wants to sex Mutombo?" And apparently the entire bar emptied out immediately. That does not surprise me at all and certainly entitles him to a nominee on this list.
Well, not a surprising story given that it's in Georgetown I won't go into the scene in Georgetown, but look, I've spent nights in Georgetown. He was a lucky man that night.
Well, you might have a lot of shit talking about Georgetowns, but you got to give him credit for not wanting to sex Mutombo.
I do, but again, I guess I'm letting my love for those in the D.C. area cloud this one. I don't know. I don't really think he's that ugly.
2 more names for you, and we'll go rapid fire on them. 1, Vlade Divac, so ugly that he looked like he smelled like shit. 2, Patrick Ewing. Quick thoughts?
Vlade, I'd put him on there. Patrick Ewing, nah, I don't think so.
No? Patrick Ewing? No? You put Joakim Noah in this fucking list and not Patrick Ewing?
Look, there's other names that I put on the list. Marcin Gortat, Anthony Davis. I think those guys should be on the list over Ewing.
Do we have time for me to do a quick Google search and see whether or not Ewing is a part of your fucking family tree? There is no way that Ewing does not get included on this.
I don't think he should be on there. I don't know what else. I mean,
I'll let you stick by your guns. I will say that Pat Ewing is filthy ugly. I will also point out that he has at least 8 flaps of skin on his enormous fucking forehead and is perhaps not our starter, but would make my second team all ugly. The decision's before us. It's go time, man. Who's your nominee?
Sheldon Williams.
My God. I have got to go George Mirasan, and it pains me to say it. It is an amazing world where Chris Kaman can be a part of an ugliest list and not win, but it's got to be George. In fact, out of an homage to him, I might go watch My Giant and just recognize his legacy is the ugliest player in the NBA. This week, we're going to stray away from the ugliest human beings that anyone has had the displeasure of laying eyes on. Instead, focus on the best fictional basketball players to have ever come out of Hollywood movies or TV sitcoms. You get a chance to look at this?
Yeah, this is another great all-huddle team that I'm really fired up for. A lot of names on this list here.
You and I both. And let's start the same way we did last week, man, at point guard. If you don't mind, I'd like to give us our first suggestion.
Please.
Teen Wolf. Now, I think much the way that Sam Cassell was a lock for the team, Teen Wolf is a lock for the point guard position. Now, there's concerns about his size. He's only about 5'4" and 122 pounds, and he's not going to be sharing the ball a whole lot. In fact, I think he went through his entire year at Beacon High School without registering a single assist. But, fuck me, what an amazing athlete. Did you see the rest of his team? It had that giant, fat, white, pasty dude who shouldn't have even been on the floor.
The guy's got crazy talent, but is definitely full of himself. I really worry what he does to the team chemistry. The guy stole the ball from his own teammate at one point in the game.
You seemingly forgot the lessons he learned towards the end of that season. In fact, he was willing to even give up the Teen Wolf persona just to shoot free throws in the end. I think your chemistry concerns are right. I'm not sure if he's really going to be able to share the ball in any meaningful way, but his talent level wins out. This guy can dunk from anywhere on the court.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the playing in sunglasses thing, though.
That's fair. That's fair. And if we did sign him, there'd have to be some clause in there, no indoor sunglasses. Who's your next guy?
I'm going to throw out my man, Kyle Watson, from Above the Rim, played by Dwayne Martin. First off, Above the Rim just has a great soundtrack, but Kyle Watson is an incredible player. I don't know if anyone gets more done in the morning than Kyle Watson. If you start Above the Rim, this guy, he works out at his house, has a full breakfast at home, then goes to a basketball court and does more drills, and then shows up at school on time.
Look, I'm not going to question his work ethic, and I'm certainly not going to question his talent level. Here's what I am going to question. His ability to make it through the rigors of a full season. He wasn't even sure if he was going to play for Birdie, played by Tupac Shakur, or his current fucking coach. This guy can't be trusted to make the right decision, and I'm not giving him the ball in crunch time.
Well, like you said, Teen Wolf is a lock on this thing.
Okay, so it's going to be hard for him to beat.
Yeah.
I do have at least one more guy I'd like you to consider. Butch McRae. He of the Western University Dolphins from Blue Chips, portrayed by my boy Anthony Hardaway. Now, intriguing blend of skill and size. Very willing passer, sweet scorer from the point, and still stood, 6'7", 195 pounds. But questions surrounding his heart. If memory serves, they sign this guy. He joins the Dolphins, gets a new fucking house and job for his mother, then comes back and starts talking about transferring. That's not what I want to see from one of my leaders.
Yeah, I don't know that this would be a guy I'd want on my team. A little shaky on the heart front, and very, very questionable ankle, I'd say.
Fair enough. Okay.
Actually, let me throw out one more just so we don't get a lot of feedback about missing people. I'll just throw out my man Jimmy Dolan from the Air Up There, just because he had one of the best moves ever, which is also the worst move I've ever heard of, is the Jimmy Dolan shake and bake.
If memory serves, that guy had physical problems by the time that we met him in Africa, and I think it was a right knee problem. In fact, he just barely got through that last game. Maybe if we caught him a couple years earlier, he'd deserve a spot, but I think at this stage in his career, we can't go his way.
I agree.
Okay. Shooting guard. I will pass the mic because you let me go first last time. Who's your guy?
I'm going to throw out Billy Hoyle from White Man Can't Jump. I can associate with this guy. Okay?
I love this guy.
I can associate with him. When I go out and play, I usually score maybe 2 or 3 easy buckets before anyone gives me credit for being at all semi-good. So I really just have a certain sweet spot for this guy in my heart.
That's weird. I thought you were going to say the last time you dunked, you ended up 4 inches beneath the rim.
Well, if I was going to get paid $2,500 to dunk, I probably would have made the dunk.
I'm going to go as factually incorrect on that, but I'll let you have your own move. I will also add that this guy, just an amazing shooter, great off pick and rolls, and shows an uncanny skill in overcoming shit talking. This guy can pretty much face any off the court distraction and continue to go forward. Sidney Dean tried to fuck him the first time they met, and he was never put off his game.
What do you think about potential gambling debts?
That would be hard.
Point shaving might be an issue.
It's going to be a little bit nasty. We're going to have to keep him away from that super shady ref with the connection to the mafia. So I mean, that is what it is. But overall, I think his skill level works out. And let me add, his girlfriend, Rosie Perez, hot as shit.
Yeah, but kind of annoying to deal with too. I wouldn't want to have her behind me on the bench every night. Who are you going to nominate for this?
This one's going to be kind of a fight, man, because I love Billy Hoyle, Jesus Shuttlesworth. Now, you'll remember that everybody from Dick Vitale to the old Cal coach, Lou Campanelli, said this dude was the best recruit in history. In fact, I pulled a couple quotes. This is from Shaquille O'Neal, pure shooter and fearsome defender. This is from George Karl. He can do it all. Defend, run, pass, finish, make people better, play within a crowd. This from John Thompson, the best thing to happen to basketball since the tennis shoe. This guy's got a sweet stroke. His defense is in question. His father, Denzel Washington, went up 3-0 in a one-on-one game, but I think that his skill wins out.
This guy plays like a less charismatic Ray Allen, which I didn't know was possible to be less charismatic than Ray Allen, but Jesus Shuttlesworth has done it.
Did you think that when you use the phrase charismatic and Ray Allen in the same sentence, one of our microphones would explode? Let me give him one last piece of credit. This guy was able to deal with the rigors of the college recruiting process like a pro. He even got through an unexpected threesome at Tech U. This dude knows how to deal with pressure. It's go time. Who's your pick?
Based on skill, I got to go Jesus Shuttlesworth. He's going to provide the most for my team. I'm
going shocking. Billy Hoyle. That dude is the man. I remember I actually used to be called Billy Hoyle when I was trying to fucking play hoop at Skyline for a while. So just because of the namesake, just because I do think that he is much better than you at both basketball and dunking, I'm going to go Billy Hoyle, which brings us to small forward. I think it's my turn to start us off.
Go for it.
Starting off with a familiar name. Will Smith, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Now, definite concerns about his size. Really small for a small forward. He's 6'2", 193 pounds. But, man, is he a great volume scorer. I had a chance to look at some of his footage. What I can tell, he took every single shot his high school team at Bel-Air put up, boasted at 100% shooting percentage, and one piece of scouting footage showed that he was able to not only win the tip, but then hit a three-point shot from half court before landing. That's the type of skill we're going to need on this team, Scott.
His highlight reel is unbelievable. He'd be one of those guys who their high school games get taped. Somebody releases like a YouTube mixtape. Scouts just go through the roof to get him.
That tip-winning shot is more impressive than the football clip from that commercial that everyone, we see that guy do the flip and everyone goes, hello, and then he ultimately gets introduced to Bobby Stoop. This was an amazing player, and if stupid Carlton hadn't missed that shot at the end of the fucking game, they'd be state champions today.
I also like that he's versatile. He can play a lot of positions despite being undersized. He takes that opening jump.
He had a boxing career at one point. In fact, mimicked Ali. But enough about Will Smith. Who's your next guy?
Well, I keep going back to one of my favorite movies of all time, Above the Rim. I'm going to say Shep. He's a security guard. But in his former days, he was an incredible player. I love his dedication to the game. The dude practices without a ball. Now, that also makes me worry because he's a little nuts. The dude practices without a ball. But the guy got a sweet stroke, and his basketball IQ is off the charts.
Let me point out that all of us have a sweet stroke when we're playing without a ball. And this guy's dedication is also in question. He loses a brother and stops playing entirely. Am I right in remembering in the big game when he finished out above the rim, he actually played it in pants?
He did play in pants.
Right there is not on the team. As any of us who have ever played a pickup game can attest to, if someone's playing in pants, he shouldn't be on the team.
What's he doing playing one-on-one on a roof? Without a chain fence or anything?
Who are these people who put the fucking court up on the roof? How is that an acceptable decision?
I have no idea, but who are you going to go on?
Oh, I got one more. Whoa, not so fast, buddy. Jimmy Chitwood, the star from the Hoosier team. I got some concerns over his love of the game as well. Before he helped the Hoosiers to the national championship in '54, he refused to play the first half of the season, instead focusing on his schoolwork. So who knows? But this guy can perform in the clutch, and he's got a sweet stroke.
See, I think this is a nostalgia pick on your end. There's no way I take Jimmy Chitwood. His game is outdated and can't keep up with today's modern NBA.
And in case somebody out there wants to point out that Jimmy Chitwood is based on a real player and is not a fictional one, he was based on Bobby Plump. Go fuck yourself. This guy was definitely made up. Just a shot out to, we don't have to discuss him, Mark Cooper from Hanging from Cooper. My boy came out of Oakland, former NBA player. A little bit too old to be considered here. Most high school teachers shouldn't be on the list, but I at least wanted to say his name. Power forward. Who you got?
All right, I got Pound from Space Jam. He was the character who stole Charles Barkley's skills. The box score from Space Jam, somebody has compiled it. Let me tell you Pound's stats that game. A remarkable 16 for 16 from the field, scoring 37 points and adding 6 steals to the cause.
It's hard for me to talk back to this guy, and anybody who can put up those type of numbers while in cartoon form probably deserves mention here. I'll only answer with Ricky Rowe, the other guy from Western University of Blue Chips. Kind of a bitch. He wouldn't play until they gave him money, and as the end of the movie quickly informs us, he suffered an injury shortly after that first season, but he at least deserves to be here. I'll tell you what, I'm going with your boy, Pound. Final position, man, center. I'm going to start us off here because I think, much like Teen Wolf, I've got another lock. I don't want to go too heavy blue chips here, but Neon Boutro. Standing a dominant 7'1", 324 pounds. Great attitude, apparently great with kids. Recruiting him is a nightmare. You have to go to this shitburger gym in Louisiana, but I think it's worth it.
Plays a lot like a very, very young, in-shape Shaquille O'Neal.
You know, I saw those exact similarities.
Is he too raw a talent?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we're going to have to work him through, well, first conditioning, because something tells me that as he gets older, he's going to stop working out. But generally speaking, you don't see physical gifts like this. You got to take advantage of them. Speaking of physical gifts, I'm sure that you've got at least one more guy since you already brought up the movie, but go ahead. It's up to you.
Speaking of raw talents, I'll bring up Saleh from the air up there.
Shocking.
Athleticism is through the roof. I think there's some big questions about the competition he was playing against.
Was there competition? We should at least note on the press sides, if you believe at least the camera angles, he's about 8 foot 11 inches, which really would help in size. Got a fairly good set shot. I think the competition is concerned. Also pretty skinny. And we're talking Manute Bull skinny. I'm not sure he could guard the post.
That'd be tough for him, but he could put on weight. I would like some solid veterans on my team if I'm going to have
Neon
Saleh on there.
Boutro shits in that dude's face. There's no way you're going Saleh, but I'll let you make your own call. I'm going Neon.
I'll still go with Boudreaux.
Thank God. Obviously, I'm with you. Last topic. I know we're running really short on time here, so we can just go lightning round. This being the coach, I'll give you my first suggestion. Herman Boone from Remember the Titans. Now, crossover name. He didn't coach a basketball team, I'm well aware, but this guy's the man. In a racially charged 1971 environment, he was able to take T.C. Williams High to an undefeated season. Great at the pregame motivation and preparation. I'd follow this guy anywhere.
I'm so confused why you're bringing up a football movie right now. It's a basketball podcast.
It's the coach, and if you can
the coach of a basketball team.
I understand. I'm going to hire him because that's the type of confidence I have in him. Now, if you'd only like actual basketball entries, let me give you one more. Bobby Finstock from Teen Wolf. I was able to take a look at this. This guy was dropping knowledge left and right, but one quote sold it for me, and we can play it for you here.
Let me give you a little advice. There's 3 rules that I live by. Never get less than 12 hours sleep. Never play cards with a guy who's got the same first name as a city. And never go near a lady who's got a tattoo of a dagger on her body. Now you stick with that. Everything else is cream cheese.
Now, just that this guy was able to say that makes everything cream cheese, makes it amazing. But his 3 points for life were on the money. Much like Boone, I'd follow this guy anywhere, Scott.
This guy's a great coach. He's a player's coach.
So true. I think it's time for our decision on the coach. Your call is?
Well, can I have my own nomination here?
I don't want to give you one, but apparently I can't stop you.
I'm going to go with Phyllis Soroka from Sunset Park.
You didn't able to find like a Care Bears movie that you wanted to pull a coach from?
Well, I did find a basketball movie, which seemed to be a problem for you. Let me tell you about Phyllis. Played by Rhea Perlman, who is married to Danny DeVito.
Already's lost me completely. Rhea Perlman is not a real coach, and she's a woman. That's ridiculous.
She came in knowing nothing about coaching basketball, had a team full of problems. During the season, she deals with a player who's on probation, one guy strung out on drugs, a guy gets shot, and she still leads them to the city championship.
Terrible. Was it in a women's league? I give her no credit. I'm with my boy Bobby Finstock.
I'm going to go with Phyllis Soroka.
Should've gone.
Sunset Park, what time is it?
Should have gone Boone. He is the man. I'll stick with Finstock. That's all the time we got. Thanks a lot for listening, you guys, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
I laid all them busters down, I let my gat explode. Now I'm switching my mind back into freak mode. If you won't skirt, sit back and observe. I just left a gang of